In the year 408, the greatest empire on earth was besieged, and its enemies demanded not just gold and silver, but 3,000 pounds of a dried berry. In 408 AD, the city of Rome faced a moment that once seemed unthinkable. The Visigoths, led by Alaric, had surrounded the city and cut it off. To lift this first siege, Rome agreed to pay an extraordinary price. According to the contemporary historian Zosimus, the terms were staggering: 5,000 pounds of gold, 30,000 pounds of silver, 4,000 silken tunics, 3,000 scarlet-dyed hides, and 3,000 pounds of pepper. Pause on that last item. Alongside the precious metals of the ancient world, alongside gold and silver, sat a dried berry from a vine that grew thousands of miles away. Why would a conquering army, holding a great city hostage, insist that pepper be counted among its treasure? The answer is not a trivial detail of ancient bookkeeping. It is a window into how a single spice quietly shaped the economics of empires, and how it would, centuries later, redraw the map of the world. Part 1. Worth its weight in gold. To understand why the Goths wanted pepper, we first have to understand what pepper had already become in Rome. Pepper was not native to Rome, nor to anywhere in Europe. It came from South India, the dried fruit of a climbing vine, carried across seas and deserts through a long chain of traders before it ever reached a Roman table. That distance made it precious. In the 1st century CE, the Roman writer Pliny the Elder took the trouble to record its prices in his natural history. Long pepper, he noted, cost 15 denarii per pound, white pepper 7, and black pepper 4. These were not the prices of a cheap seasoning. Pliny went further. He complained that India was draining the Roman Empire of 50 million sesterces each year. He observed with evident irritation that pepper and ginger were valued in terms of gold and silver. Think about what that means. A man of the 1st century, watching the wealth of Rome flow eastward, singled out this spice as a symbol of imperial extravagance. So, when Alaric's Goths demanded pepper in 408, they were not asking for a curiosity. They were asking for stored value, a commodity that everyone in the Roman world understood to be worth its weight in the metals of kings. But if pepper was money in Rome? Part 2, when pepper was money. What happened to it after Rome fell? The story does not end at the city walls. With the ransom paid, Emperor Honorius consented to the terms, and the Visigoths lifted the siege. In December of 408, they withdrew to Etruria. The pepper, the gold, the silk, and the hides went with them. It is one of history's quieter ironies. A spice from an Indian vine helped buy time for a dying empire. But the value pepper carried did not vanish when the Western Roman world crumbled. Across the Middle Ages, pepper kept its extraordinary status. It frequently changed hands not merely as food, but as currency. Records show it passing as rent, as dowry, and as tax. It was a preferred medium of exchange, prized above all by the wealthy, a substance so reliably valuable that it could stand in for coin. Imagine paying your landlord in peppercorns, or settling a marriage contract with a measured weight of the spice. In an age when trusted currency could be scarce, pepper offered something rare, a good that nearly everyone agreed was worth having. This was not a symbolic gesture, it was practical economics, and that practice left behind a fossil in the law that survives, remarkably, to this very day. To find it, we have to look at the language of English. Part 3, the peppercorn in the law. Contracts. There is a phrase still used in legal circles, the peppercorn rent. In early English common law, a rent or a tax could be paid with a single peppercorn. a way to make a contract binding without the bother of exchanging real currency. A landlord might lease property for a token payment, and that token was a peppercorn. Why a peppercorn of all things? Because when the practice took hold, in the late 16th and early 17th centuries, pepper was still quite highly valued. A single peppercorn was small, but it was not nothing. It carried enough worth to seal an agreement in the eyes of the law. Over time, the value of pepper fell, but the phrase remained. Today, a peppercorn rent means a nominal payment, a legal formality. Yet the words themselves are a fossil, preserving a moment when this spice was genuinely precious enough to bind two parties in contract. Every time a lawyer uses that phrase, they are unknowingly echoing centuries of pepper's role as money. But here is the tension that had been building all along. If pepper was this valuable and Europe could not grow it, then whoever controlled its source held enormous power. For centuries. Part 4. The hunt for the source. That source lay hidden behind a long chain of middlemen. What would happen when Europe decided to reach it directly? For most of European history, pepper arrived through intermediaries. It traveled overland and across seas, changing hands many times, each merchant taking a share, each toll adding to the price. Europe consumed pepper without ever seeing where it grew. To reach India directly, to cut out every middleman and buy pepper at its source, would mean unimaginable profit. And so the hunt began, not for new land for its own sake, but for a route, a sea road to India. This is the ambition that launched one of history's most consequential voyages. In 1497, a Portuguese expedition set out under Vasco da Gama, driven by exactly this goal. His fleet made African landfall on the 4th of November, 1497. They pushed on, reaching Malindi on the East African coast on the 14th of April, 1498, before crossing the open ocean to India itself. It was a brutal journey. Of roughly 170 men who set out, only 55 would return. Of 4 ships, only 2 came home. Most of the dead were lost not to storms or battle, but to scurvy, the slow, agonizing disease of sailors deprived of fresh food on long voyages. The cost in human life was enormous, but the men who survived carried something back that would change everything. When da Gama returned in 1499, the cargo his surviving ships carried was reported to be worth roughly 60 times the cost of the entire expedition. 60 times. Every ship lost, every life lost to scurvy was, in the cold arithmetic of the age, repaid many times over by the value of what those holds contained. This single figure explains the centuries that followed. If a voyage could return 60 times its cost, then no risk seemed too great, no distance too far. The sea route to India was open, and with it came direct European trade in the spices that had once passed through so many hands. But this triumph carried a shadow that must not be softened. The arrival of da Gama's ships is remembered in India not only as the coming of European trade, but in one account as bringing pepper at the cost of Indian sovereignty. The direct trade Europe celebrated became the seed of Portuguese colonial expansion across the Indian Ocean, a story of conquest, of coercion, and of communities whose lands and lives were reshaped by forces arriving from the sea. The pepper that flowed to Europe came at a price paid by others, over generations. Part 5. The weight of a berry. That is the fuller truth of this trade, and it deserves to be told plainly. Step back and consider the arc of this story. A small dried berry, grown on a vine in South India, was demanded in the Ransom of Rome, counted alongside gold and silver by a besieging army in 408 AD. It served as money through the Middle Ages, paid as rent, as dowry, as tax, leaving its trace in the language of the law to this day. And the hunt for its source helped launch the voyages that opened Europe's sea route to India, unleashing trade, wealth, and colonial expansion, with consequences that echoed for centuries. What made pepper so valuable was, at heart, simple. It grew in one part of the world and was desired everywhere else, and the distance between supply and demand created worth. But that worth moved armies, bound contracts, and steered ships across unknown oceans. The next time you reach for a pepper grinder, a spice so ordinary it sits on nearly every table, remember that it was once precious enough to help buy the safety of Rome, and precious enough to change the course of the world. History is not always written in the deeds of emperors. Sometimes it turns on the weight of a berry. This story touches on the human cost of colonial expansion and forced trade. If reflecting on histories of exploitation or displacement weighs on you, consider reaching out to a trusted person or a local support service. In many countries, free and confidential helplines are available. You do not have to carry difficult feelings alone.